Japanese sword is not hardened all the way through. Before the blade is quenched, the smith coats it in clay, thick along the back, thin along the edge. The thin side cools fast and comes out glass hard. The thick side cools slowly and stays soft enough to take a shock without breaking when two blades clash. The pale line of the hamon you can see winding down a katana is the border between the hard edge and the soft body. That is what the whole tradition is built around, and it's a matter of life or death. Put the hardest possible edge on a blade that will not shatter when it strikes something. A short list of true masters did it better than others, and the blades they forged earned their fame. The stories of those swords went into family records and temple inventories and were passed down for hundreds of years. These are 5 of the sharpest swords in Japanese history. Number 5, the Iwakiri Toshiro. The Iwakiri Toshiro is a tanto, a dagger, 23 centimeters long, which is a little over 9 inches. It is signed by the great master Yoshimitsu. Awataguchi Yoshimitsu worked in Kyoto in the Kamakura period, and Japanese tradition ranks him among the 3 finest smiths who ever worked. He specialized in short blades like this one. Long swords crafted by him barely exist. Daggers are what he made, and his works are prized enough that his own name, Toshiro, is attached to a whole family of the most valuable small blades in Japan. Iwakiri means rock cutter, and its story comes from a perilous storm at sea. Long ago, an owner of this dagger was caught aboard a vessel on a dangerous passage, in a storm violent enough to tear the ship off her course and drive her toward open water. Once out there, she was not coming back. The crew fought the whitecaps until they were exhausted and could not hold her. In a last-ditch effort, he drove this dagger into rock and made the vessel fast against it. The blade held until the deadly seas subsided, and it has been known as the rock cutter ever since. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who was born a peasant and rose to rule all of Japan, came to possess this famous blade. At the end of his life, he passed it to Natsuka Masaye, one of the 5 commissioners he appointed to govern after his death. That is why the blade also carries Natsuka's name. Masaye backed the losing side at Sekigahara, the battle that ended once and for all Japan's century of civil war and ushered in over 250 years of peace under the Tokugawa shogunate. As a result of his failure, he took his own life by seppuku. After his death, the dagger went to Fukushima Masanori, who had been raised in Hideyoshi's household and made his name as the first of the 7 spears of Shizugatake. At Sekigahara, Masanori led the vanguard of the army that broke the Western Alliance, and he was paid for it with a province. Later, Masanori's son inherited the blade before it passed into the Okudaira family, who held the domain of Nakatsu on Kyushu and kept it safe for generations. It was designated an important cultural property in 1943, and today it is held at the Tokyo National Museum. Number 4, the Ishida Masamune. The Ishida Masamune is a katana of about 69 centimeters, 27 inches, and it is the work of Goro Nyudo Masamune, the swordsmith widely recognized as the greatest in Japanese history. The blade was shortened at some point in its life, so the tang carries no signature. It is known to some by its second name, Kirikomi Masamune, the notched Masamune. Run your eye along the blade's spine, and across the ridge you will find notches in the steel. Each scar comes from battle, when another warrior swung against it with murderous intent, hard enough to bite into the blade itself. Kirikomi Masamune took each blow on the spine and the ridge, where the blade is thickest, and it kept its edge. The marks remain in the steel today, a rare physical record of the lethal combat it survived. The Ishida in its name is Ishida Mitsunari, the administrator who would raise an army against the Tokugawa, then lose Japan at the pivotal Battle of Sekigahara. In 1599, a year before that battle, Mitsunari was forced out of his post and sent under guard to his castle at Sawayama. Getting him there alive was not a certainty. The man who escorted him and made sure he arrived was Yuki Hideyasu, the second son of Tokugawa Ieyasu. Mitsunari presented this sword to him as thanks. A year later, Mitsunari was beheaded in Kyoto on the orders of Hideyasu's father. The sword stayed on the Tokugawa side of the war, passed down through Hideyasu's line, and then to the Matsudaira lords of Tsuyama. It was designated an important cultural property in 1953, and it is held at the Tokyo National Museum. Number 3, the Nansen Ichimonji. The Nansen Ichimonji is a katana from the Kamakura period, made by the Fukuoka Ichimonji school in what is now Okayama Prefecture. It is about 70 centimeters, 28 inches, and nobody knows which smith made it, because the part of the blade that carried his name is gone. It was cut down and remounted more than once over 8 centuries. Today, the original tang no longer exists. 3 peg holes survive in what is left of it, each one from a different mounting. The story of Nansen Ichimonji's sharpness revolves around a cat's terrible fate. The blade was in the collection of the Ashikaga shoguns, stood up against a wall, waiting to be polished. A startled cat jumped at it, brushed the edge on its way past, and was later found in 2 grisly pieces. Whoever named the sword did not name it for the cat. They named it for a Chinese monk instead. There is a famous Zen record in which a master called Nanquan Puyuan holds up a cat in front of his students, demands that one of them say something worth saying, and when nobody can, cuts the animal in half. Nansen is how the Japanese say his name. Somebody looked at a sword that had killed a cat by accident and heard the echo, and that is the name it has carried ever since. It went from the Ashikaga to Hideyoshi. In 1611, Toyotomi Hideyori presented it to Tokugawa Ieyasu when the 2 men met at Nijo Castle in Kyoto. There, it passed into the Owari branch of the Tokugawa house, where it has stayed ever since. It was designated an important cultural property in 1954, and it is held at the Tokugawa Art Museum in Nagoya. Number 2, the Ishidorogiri Kotetsu. Nagasone Okisato Kotetsu started out making armor and did not forge a sword until he was in his 50s, with decades of experience under his belt. He then became the most sought-after swordsmith of the Edo period. His signature is one of the most forged in Japan. This blade is about 64 centimeters, 25 inches, and it is the most unusual thing he ever made because it has almost no curve at all. A katana is supposed to curve. The iconic curve is the silhouette everyone pictures when they imagine a samurai sword, but this one runs nearly straight, and there is nothing else like it in his body of work. The name means stone lantern cutter, and he did it himself in his own garden to win an argument. A bannerman named Kugai, an official with a 5,500 koku income, had commissioned the sword, but when it came time to pay, he balked at the price. 100 gold ryo was too much. Kotetsu's answer was to take the blade outside for a cutting test to demonstrate its true value. He took aim at a thick pine branch. He cut through it in one slice, but the swing kept going, and he slashed through the stone lantern behind it as well. The story goes that Kugai came back later offering 150. Instead, Kotetsu refused to sell him the sword at any price and gave it to somebody else. The tale of its sharpness was etched into the tang. Under the handle, where only a sword's owner would ever see it, the metal carries Kotetsu's signature and then 4 more characters, stone lantern cut, evidence of the cutting test that proved its value. By the Meiji era, the blade belonged to Viscount Hosokawa. It was shown at a famous sword exhibition in Tokyo in 1935, and it has been out of public view since. Other blades by Nagasone Kotetsu are on permanent exhibition at the Iwakiri Art Museum in Yamaguchi Prefecture. And number 1, The Kotegiri Masamune. The kote is the armoured sleeve a samurai wore from shoulder to wrist, iron plates and mail sewn onto cloth, covering the arm and the back of the hand. Kotegiri means gauntlet cutter. This blade sliced through one. That is harder than it sounds, and it is why this sword is at number 1. A katana is built to slice. The curve, the edge geometry, the hardness of the steel, all of it is designed to open flesh by drawing through, exactly what armour is designed to prevent. Swordsmen trained for years to aim at the gaps instead, the throat, the armpit, the inside of the wrist, anywhere the plates left unprotected. Cutting through plate was never expected, and yet a commander of the Asakura clan did it. The Asakura ruled Ekizin on the Japan sea coast, and they held this sword for generations afterward as proof of what one of their own had done with it. The Asakura called it a sadamune. It was only later, after the blade came into the hands of the Maeda lords of Kaga, that it was reattributed to Masamune, and it was the Maeda who got it entered into the shogunate's official register of famous swords. That is why the whole world calls it the Kotegiri Masamune today rather than the Kotegiri Sadamune. It is about 69 centimeters now, though it began its service close to a meter and was cut down like an enormous number of old battlefield swords, originally designed for mounted combat, once men wanted something shorter to carry at the hip. Any signature it once carried was lost with the steel of the tang. When Oda Nobunaga destroyed the Asakura in 1573, this sword was among the prizes he took. It moved through his retainers, was repolished, changed hands again, and eventually reached Maeda Toshitsune, lord of the richest domain in Japan after the Tokugawa themselves. The Maeda kept it for 2.5 centuries. Then, in 1882, they presented it as a gift of honor. That is how it came to be held by the Meiji Emperor himself, which is about as high as an object can travel in Japan. It is held today at the Tokyo National Museum. Every sword in this video earned its name with its edge by being used, not by sitting in a box, and not by being admired. At Dream of Japan, we forge blades from honest steel, made to be used hard and passed on, not sealed away. You can find them at the link in the description. Like, subscribe, and join the newsletter for more real samurai history and epic sword content. Until next time, keep your edge.